Alright guys, we are back and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we got quite a lot of news to catch you up on, including summonings, as always, but most importantly a new Fragment fusion kicking off on this Thursday the 16th, and he looks very interesting. Like the way that I put it before we go into the kit is Rian the Conjurer meets Mithrala Lifebane thrown into one with a very unique passive as well. But I guess before we get into the champion itself, let's have a quick look at the summoning event. So it says that on Tuesday, November 14th, they're planning to launch an extra legendary event for Sacred Shards. You're already familiar with the mechanics because if you summon a legendary champion from Sacreds during this event, you'll get a different extra one from that same shard for free. Now, usually I'm a big fan of these events, especially when I'm close to Mercy. But you know, with the fusion coming up, I always like to save my resources, especially if it's somebody I want to go for. But it's always down to your discretion and if you feel that you've got enough shards to get the fusion done, but also getting the extra legendary champion. Do you know what? Before we get to the fusion as well, I just want to summon this Primal. It's just been looking at me, I forgot where I even got it from. And a rare champion, let's go. Great start to the video. But alright, let's go into the actual fusion itself now. And let me know if you're going to be going for that extra legendary one, guys. So 3, 2, 1, and boom, here he is. So he goes by the name of Ugir the Wyrmeater, however you say his name. Looks pretty cool, right? Like, one thing that they did say from their official Discord to us is if you pay note to the armory on his shoulder pads, it's actually got some relation to Pythion from the Lizardman faction, which we can definitely see right now. So if we just head into the factions, go into Pythion, and boom. You can see, look, 3, 2, 1... Very similar, right, with the colorway as well on the champion itself. It's just cool to see that correlation. So it says he's a Spirit Affinity HP champion, legendary of course from the Ugir tribes, and Wyrmeater will be an arena anti-revive champion. He brings quite a lot to the table when we're talking about the arena, transferring and blocking buffs, removing buffs and weakening your enemies, and also buffing your own team, paired with an accuracy aura in arena battles to ease using those effects. What makes this champion stand out is the passive skill, and once an enemy revives an ally, Ugir will instantly activate his A2 to attack all enemies and removes all buffs from them, and places a weakened debuff on top of that. So that was just like a brief introduction to what Raid said, and let's just break it down for ourselves. So with the A1, has an 80% chance, bookable up to a 100% chance of stealing a random buff from the enemy. We'll also have a 100% chance of placing a block buff's debuff on that enemy for 2 turns. You know, it's a relatively good A1 here if you think about some arena encounters or just where you need some single target block buffs. It could definitely come to fruition, or simply stealing back like a buff from the Hydra boss, right? Pretty decent for the A1. On the Earth Puncture, 4-turn cooldown, bookable down to a 3-turn, will attack all enemies, will have a 100% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies, and then a 100% chance of placing a weakened debuff for 2 turns. Now, I do want to take this off very quickly. I'm going to show some comparisons between champions for players out there that might not have the resources to go for the fusion, or if you just do not want to go for it. So, let's just take this off. So, we're going to go into the Dark Elves. And this is a free champion, right? Think about the skills that we just spoke about. A1, a block buffs potential up to a 75%, but you don't steal buffs with this A1 of Rian. And she's unlockable from completing the normal Doom Tower, right? With fragments. On the Sweeping Dismissal, 100% chance of removing all buffs from enemies and also placing that weakened debuff on enemies. So very, very similar, but the new fusion basically attacks all enemies in the same skill, which could be detrimental depending on the phasing. Like, if you're attacking a magic champion and you get a weak hit, does that now mean that we don't remove the buffs or place the weaken? So I guess it's something we need to try out if we get access for him on the test server. But you know, overall, very similar in terms of skill set so far. So swiftly moving back to the skills itself, with the Ugir Fortitude, 5-turn bookable down to a 3-turn, you'll place a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, which is pretty sweet. And then we'll place a 60% increased defense buff on allies whose defense is higher or equal to their attack for 2 turns. And then if an ally's attack is higher than the defense, we'll place a 50% increased attack instead. Now, it's kind of catering to the different champion styles, like, are they based on defense, or are you ramping up their attack stats and amplifying their damage, or just adding that sustainability to those allies, right? I really do wish it worked like a Mithrala Lifebane, just places both the buffs on all allies anyway, just makes it a bit more simple, but overall, a pretty good A3 here, right? And then with the Scourge of Dragons on a 2-turn cooldown bookable down to a 1-turn, whenever an enemy is revived, will instantly activate the Earth's Puncture skill, which attacks all enemies with the removing of buffs and also placing that weaken, right? And I was getting really excited. I was thinking Marishka counters maybe, like, it had so much possibilities, until I read a little bit later into the kit and it became a tiny bit less desirable than I first thought. But if an enemy is revived by a champion from the Lizardman faction, i.e. Pythion or Broadmoor or some other ones out there, can't recall them, or even is there any more? I'll have to check later. The effects of the Earth's Puncture cannot be resisted, meaning that you do not need accuracy to be successful. But then this is the part. The passive effect will only activate when an enemy is revived using an active skill, which means that when you're using Revive on deaths or, you know, the passive of Marishka the Unbreakable when she brings all back the dead allies, it's not going to counter those and come through with that A2 ability, which I wish that it would have. That would have been insane, right? But it's just going to be for like a traditional revive from an Arbiter or a Pythion, for instance. Instantly activating the Earth's Puncture will not place the skill on cooldown. If there are multiple champions on the same team, only one will activate. And of course, there's a cheeky little aura down there of 70 in all battles by 70, which is pretty sweet as well if you're needing that. So let's just take this off. So yeah, that was the champion. You guys let me know your overall thoughts on it. But I did want to see, in the Lizardman faction, how many are there? Let's have a quick look. So we got Broadmoor. Scatix doesn't do it, right? He's not a reviver. Broadmoor, are these the only two? I must be missing out on someone. I think that's actually the only two revivers in this faction. Maybe a rare down here somewhere? I don't know, I'm not going to look for every single rare, but it is very limited to actually use that passive on the non-resistible scale, unless you know that you're literally facing a Pythion and they're a nuisance for you. But I also wanted to see what they said about the passive in their notes here. So it says, the passive skill is only triggered by active revive skills and not by revive on death buffs or passive skills including reviving. So that just clears it up, guys. Revive on death as well, not going to work. And things like the Marishka the Unbreakable, as you see here, I assume that these are not going to work as well because it's a passive skill that revives everybody when she's killed. So countering those is going to be a bit tedious, but the traditional revives, you shouldn't have no problem on that 1-turn cooldown once booked. But yeah, that is going to be all for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like, subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this champion in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in a video soon. Peace.